Now let's continue with the pond and the pond berm. Now previously we established the bottom by just simply taking the blue graphic, setting it 4 feet below ground. Then we came up 5 feet at a 3-to-1 slope. That established the inside edge of the top. We now want to go out for 6 feet and make a flat, basically a flat top. So we're going to continue with our side slope tool. Again, we got that from Modeler Elements Side Slope. This allows me to create site elements based on a slope from other site elements, but also the graphic doesn't have to be there originally, and I have multiple options for going vertical, horizontal distances, or going to specific elevations, or importantly going to sloping out to models and objects. Now I'm going to switch this to 4 delta horizontal, and I'm going to set it to 6 feet. My slope, I'll make that a nominal percent of 1%, and the level symbology I can leave the same in this case. And I want to select the graphic, so it might help if I turn my display view off. Sometimes this is helpful. And then you can get in, hit the select reference button, and select the graphic. Then we set the side that we want to slope, which will be outside. We're going to use association so that the outside line is associated with the inside line on the berm, and of course the inside is associated with the bottom. Click apply, and it places the outside edge of our berm. One of the nice things about this tool too is that I can do things like, for example, I can set it to create a bench for me. So let's say that I want to slope off of the edge, and I want to slope to, let's say, the ground. So I'm going to say slope to ground, and I want to go at a 3-to-1 slope. What I can do is I can say I need to set a limit. I can't go more than 5 feet vertically without putting a bench in. So I'll set up a color for my bench. We'll just say PondBerm. And what it'll do when I select the element to start from and the side to go to is it'll slope to ground at 3-to-1. But what it'll do is it'll draw a purple line where it hits that limit. So I'll click apply, and you can see the graphic that's placed is, in the areas where it's red, well, it was able to get to ground within 5 feet. But areas where it's purple, that's 5 feet higher than the original line that I started from. So therefore we can do things like set limits vertically and horizontally. You could also toggle on use bench and say let's set a 6-foot bench at a 1% slope. So this time I'm going to come off of the purple line, set my side, and what it'll do is it'll continue to hit that limit until it reaches all the way up to ground. And every 5 feet it puts a bench in, so it does them all at once. And all the site elements obviously are created. So you can do lots of things like that. Now in this case I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all those. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all these graphics. And then we're going to come back and check the volume real quick. And turn my display on, and I missed one. So let me come out there and delete those as well. Okay. So now we want to check volumes. So So I'm going to close the side slope tool, grab Modeler, Analysis, Volumes, and also Modeler, Analysis, and Drainage Tools. We have two different ways to check volumes. I'm going to focus on the drainage tools, but I just wanted to bring up the volumes tools to show you that you can check the volume of the pond by maybe doing a plane to object, setting the top surface elevation to object, and that'll give you a volume in the pond. We also have a tool on our drainage tools under Analysis Drainage Tools to do what we call a pond analysis. What that does is it allows me to check, for example, the cubic feet, cubic yards of the pond. And I simply toggle on display only, select the pond object, click apply, and if I data point on the side slopes of the pond, what it'll do is it'll go from wherever I data point down to the bottom, and that's where it'll establish the bottom, and then it'll start to fill that pond back up. And at some point it overflows the banks of the pond, and that becomes the pond surface area. We tell you the elevation at that location and the depth of the pond. So you can see here what my information is. So I can use that at any point, and as I start to modify the pond, for example, if I start to, maybe that's not enough volume, or maybe that's too much volume, what I can do is I can scale, for example, and I'll say let's scale it down 0.85. So 0.85, I'll select the blue shape. Now notice what happened is the red shape went with it because they're associated. So turn my display back on, check my volume this time. Same depth, but I'm going to get a different volume. So previously the volume was 341,000 cubic feet. Now it's 252,000 cubic feet. So I can play with that and modify and kind of pull and tug on this shape until I get the volume that I'm targeting. And so that's just a kind of a brief introduction into pond grading and design with the side slope tool.